Welcome to Hope After. This is a Christ-centered journey towards healing in marriage and a space for couples walking through the impact of hidden pornography, betrayal, broken trust, and the long, slow work of rebuilding. It's not theory, it's truth, lived out, shaped through our own story, through the healing God has led us through and shared carefully with you. And today, we're talking about something that many couples are living with, but almost nobody wants to say out loud: erectile dysfunction. And more specifically, erectile dysfunction where pornography has been part of the marriage story. Even hearing that may sound uncomfortable. It may be embarrassing. It may feel too private or exposing, a bit awkward or shame-filled. For some husbands, this subject touches a very deep place of fear, inadequacy, and humiliation. And for some wives, it touches rejection, comparison, confusion, anger, and grief. For many couples, it becomes one of those silent rooms in the marriage. Everybody knows it's there, but nobody knows how to open the door without everything becoming defensive or painful. So today's episode is not going to be crude, it's not going to be too graphic, and it's not going to be shaming. It's going to be honest, because when pornography has entered a marriage, sexual intimacy is not just about bodies. It's about trust, secrecy, it's about safety, it's about shame, it's about the nervous system, it's about what has been trained, what's been avoided, what's been hidden, and what now has to be rebuilt gently and truthfully. And because this is Hope After, we're going to hold both truth and tenderness. We're going to speak honestly about the damage pornography can do. We're going to speak carefully about erectile dysfunction without turning it into a weapon. And we're going to make a space for both husband and wife to begin understanding what may be happening beneath the surface. Before we go any further, I want to say something important. Erectile dysfunction is not always caused by pornography. There can be physical reasons, there can be hormonal reasons or medication-related reasons. It can be due to stress, exhaustion, anxiety, age, health conditions, trauma, depression, alcohol, or relationship distress. So if erectile dysfunction is ongoing, it is wise and responsible to speak to a GP or a medical professional. This episode isn't a diagnosis, but what we're talking about today is the particular pain that happens when erectile dysfunction appears in a marriage where hidden pornography, secrecy, compulsive sexual behaviour, betrayal or sexual disconnection have also been present. Because in that situation, ED does not land neutrally. It doesn't feel like a simple medical issue. It often lands on top of an already wounded place. For the wife, it can feel like, I wasn't enough. Could he respond to porn but not me? Has his body been trained away from real intimacy? Is he still thinking about somebody else? Is he attracted to me? Is it because of what he watched?
And for the husband, it may feel like, what if I can't? What if this confirms I'm broken? What if she thinks I don't want her? What if my body betrays me? What if I've damaged something permanently? What if I can never be normal again? Have two people in the same bedroom, both carrying pain, both carrying fear, both interpreting the moment through very different wounds. And if the couple cannot talk about it safely, the silence can become almost as damaging as the problem itself.
One of the reasons this subject is so difficult is because erectile dysfunction often carries shame for men, not just disappointment, but shame. There can be this deep, often unspoken belief that sexual performance equals masculinity, that if his body doesn't respond, then he's less of a man, that if he can't perform, then he's failed, that if he struggles sexually, then he's weak, broken, exposed or humiliated. And when pornography has been involved, that shame can become even more tangled, because it may not just be my body's not doing what I want it to. It may become, what have I done to myself? What have I done to my marriage? What has pornography shaped in me? What if this is the consequence of years of secrecy? And when shame takes over like that, it rarely leads to an honest conversation. Shame tends to hide or defend and avoid and blame. Shame shuts down. Shame changes the subject. Shame says, don't look at this, don't speak about it, don't expose this. And that's where the couples can get stuck, because the wife may need honesty, reassurance and openness, but the husband may feel so exposed that he withdraws, minimises or becomes defensive. And then the wife feels rejected all over again. Not only rejected sexually, but rejected emotionally, because she's left alone with the questions. If you're the wife listening to this and erectile dysfunction has been part of your story, I want to speak gently to you for a moment, because this can hurt in a very specific way. It may not feel simply like my husband has a sexual difficulty. It may feel like another layer of betrayal, especially if you know that pornography was present, especially if you know that he was able to become aroused by images, videos, fantasy or secrecy, but then struggled with real life intimacy with you. That can cut deeply. It can feel personal. It can feel like your body has been compared and found lacking. It can make you question your attractiveness, your age, your shape, your desirability and your worth. And even if your rational mind knows this is not really about me, your heart may still ache with the question, then why does it feel like it is? That is a very real wound. And I don't want to rush past it, because one of the mistakes couples can make is trying to turn erectile dysfunction into a purely male issue, as though only the husband is affected. But in a betrayal context, the wife is affected too. She may feel rejected, confused, angry. She may feel embarrassed. She may feel unable to talk to anyone. She may feel guilty for being upset because she knows he already feels ashamed. So she holds it all. She holds his shame, her own grief, the fear of triggering him. She holds the fear of being too much emotionally. She holds the fear that if she speaks honestly, he may collapse, withdraw, or relapse. And that's too much for one person to carry alone. So if this has been part of your marriage, I want you to hear this clearly. His erectile dysfunction is not proof that you're not enough. It's not proof that you're undesirable. It's not proof that pornography was more powerful because you were lacking. Because pornography distorts. It trains the brain and body towards novelty, secrecy, control, and unreality. Real intimacy asks for presence, vulnerability, patience, emotional honesty, and mutuality. Those are entirely different things. And if his body struggles to move from one world into the other, that doesn't mean you're the problem. It means something has to be healed, retrained, understood, and rebuilt. But that healing cannot happen through pretending it doesn't hurt you. Your pain matters too.
This is probably one of those subjects one would rather avoid completely. For me, I think the shame side is massive, because if porn has been part of your story and then there are struggles with intimacy, it can feel like everything is pointing at you, like your body is exposing what you've done or what you've hidden or what you're afraid of. And the temptation is to shut down because you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to feel more ashamed. You don't want your wife to ask questions because you're scared of the answers yourself. But shutting down doesn't protect her. It leaves her carrying all the confusion. I think men need to understand that silence can feel like rejection. Avoiding the conversation might feel safer to you, but it can make your wife feel even more alone. And if porn has affected the way you respond sexually, then honesty matters. Not brutal honesty, not dumping shame everywhere, but taking responsibility and being willing to say, I know this has hurt you too. I don't fully understand it all yet, but I'm willing to face it properly.
Pornography is not neutral in a marriage. It teaches, it trains, it forms expectations and creates patterns. And one of the things pornography can do is separate sexual arousal from real relationship. It can take something God designed to be connected to covenant, love, safety, tenderness, mutual delight, and embodied intimacy, and attach it instead to secrecy, performance, novelty, control, and fantasy. Pornography does not ask a man to be emotionally present. It doesn't ask him to be vulnerable. It doesn't ask him to attune to another person. It doesn't require patience, tenderness, conversation, or mutual trust. It gives stimulation without relationship. It gives intensity without intimacy. It gives escape without responsibility. And over time, for some men, that can create a disconnect. The body becomes used to one type of sexual stimulation, and real life, marital intimacy feels very different, slower, more exposed, more emotionally demanding, less controlled, less novel, more vulnerable. And this is where many men find themselves confused, because he may genuinely love his wife, he may genuinely desire restoration, he may genuinely want closeness, and yet his body doesn't respond in the way he expects it to. That doesn't excuse pornography. It doesn't minimize the betrayal, but it can help explain why this can be more complex than simply saying, "Do you fancy me or not?" Because often the issue isn't just attraction. It's the conditioning, it's the shame and the anxiety and the fear. It's the secrecy being dragged into the light. It's a body that has been trained in one direction, now needing to learn a different kind of presence, and that takes time.
Another thing that can happen is a performance anxiety loop. There is one difficult moment, then fear attaches to the next moment. What if this happens again? What if I can't? What if she notices? What if she thinks I'm still using porn? What if I disappoint her? What if this becomes a whole conversation, and the more pressure there is to perform, the harder it becomes to relax? The body does not respond well to threat. And after betrayal, intimacy can feel threatening for both people. For the wife, it may feel emotionally unsafe. For the husband, it may feel exposing, so the bedroom becomes awkward, not because the couple do not care, but because everything is now carrying meaning. A touch is not just a touch, a hesitation is not just a hesitation. A loss of erection is not just a physical event, it becomes a story. And each person may be telling themselves a different story. The wife may be thinking, "He does not want me." The husband may be thinking, "I'm failing again." The wife may be thinking, "He has damaged us." The husband may be thinking, "I'm broken beyond repair." And the wife may be thinking, "I cannot compete with what he's watched." The husband may be thinking, "I hate what I've done, and now I cannot even make this right." And unless those stories are brought out into the open gently, they can become walls between you. If you're the husband listening to this, I want to speak to you directly and carefully. This is not a moment to collapse into shame, but it is also not a moment to avoid responsibility. There is a difference between shame and responsibility. Shame says, "I'm disgusting, I'm hopeless, I'm beyond repair, I cannot face this." Responsibility says, "This is painful, but I will not hide from it. I will seek help. I will tell the truth. I will care about how this has affected my wife. I will not make her carry my defensiveness." Your wife does not need you to perform your way out of this. She needs you to become safe. And safety may look like being willing to say, "I know this is painful for you too. I understand why this affects your sense of being wanted. I do not want to make you carry my shame. I'm willing to speak to a doctor if this continues. I am willing to speak to a therapist or recovery support if pornography has affected the way I respond. I'm not going to use this as an excuse to withdraw from you emotionally. I want to rebuild intimacy in a way that is honest, patient, and safe for both of us." That kind of response matters, because when the husband becomes defensive, the wife often feels punished for being wounded. But when a husband can stay present, even in embarrassment, it begins to create a different atmosphere. Not an instant fix, but a different atmosphere. One where truth can breathe.
I think one of the hardest things in this whole area is that both people can feel ashamed, but for completely different reasons. The husband may feel ashamed because his body is not responding, or because he knows pornography has been part of the story, or because he feels exposed. But the wife may also feel ashamed, and that shame can sound like, I must not be attractive enough. I must not be exciting enough. Maybe I've let myself go. Maybe if I look different, he would want me. Maybe this is my fault. And when pornography has been involved, those thoughts can become incredibly cruel because pornography already introduces comparison into the marriage. It already creates a crowd where there should have been covenant. So when erectile dysfunction happens in that context, the wife can feel as though she's been compared again, even if nothing is said. And I think we have to be very careful not to spiritually rush women through that pain, not to say, just forgive, or don't take it personally, or not to say, well, men struggle with these things. Because she may be carrying a wound to her womanhood, her body, her confidence, and her sense of being chosen. And that needs tenderness. It needs truth. It needs reassurance, and it needs the husband to understand that this is not just his private embarrassment. It has become part of their shared healing. So where is God in all of this? Because sometimes when we talk about sexual brokenness, people either become very condemning or very vague, but the gospel gives us something better than both. God does not deal with sexual sin by pretending it doesn't matter. And he doesn't deal with human weakness by crushing the person who's already ashamed. Jesus is full of truth and full of grace, not half truth and half grace, full truth, full grace. That means we can tell the truth about pornography. We can tell the truth about damage. We can tell the truth about secrecy, lust, betrayal, and the way sexual sin wounds a marriage. But we can also tell the truth about redemption, about healing, about the body not being disposable, about intimacy not being beyond restoration, about shame not having the final word. In Christian marriage, sexual intimacy is not meant to be a performance. It's not meant to be a stage or a test of worth. It's meant to be a place of covenant love, a place where both people are treated with honour, a place where bodies are not consumed, compared, or used, but cherished. And when pornography has distorted that, the way back is not simply try better in the bedroom. The way back is repentance, honesty, healing, patience, accountability, and learning to see one another rightly again, not as objects or performers, not as sources of validation, but as beloved image bearers, husband and wife, both wounded by what has happened, both needing God's tenderness, both needing truth. Now, there are some things that really do not help. Using erectile dysfunction as a weapon does not help. Saying, well, this is because of what you did, may be understandable in anger, but it will not create healing. Pretending it doesn't matter doesn't help either. Forcing intimacy to prove recovery doesn't help. Demanding reassurance through sex doesn't help. Avoiding all affection because intercourse feels impossible doesn't help. And the husband withdrawing into shame definitely doesn't help, because avoidance just creates more fear. What couples need is a slower, safer, more honest way of rebuilding. That may include medical support. It may include recovery work. It may include therapy. It may include a period of taking pressure off sexual performance while still rebuilding emotional and physical closeness. It may include learning how to talk about intimacy without panic. It may include naming triggers. It may include the husband reassuring his wife without making promises he can't keep. And it may include the wife being able to say, "This hurts me," without having to manage his collapse. And it may include both people accepting that healing is not always linear. Here is a gentle way a couple might begin. A wife might say, when this happens, I know there may be lots of reasons, but because of the pornography, it touches a real wounded place in me. I need us to be able to talk about it without you shutting down or getting defensive.
And the husband may say, I understand why this hurts you. I feel ashamed and embarrassed, but I do not want to leave you alone with it. I'm willing to face it properly, and I want us to rebuild intimacy in a way that is honest and safe. That kind of conversation will not fix everything overnight, but it changes the direction. It moves a couple away from silence and accusation. It moves them towards shared truth. And shared truth matters, because secrecy is where pornography grew, so healing cannot grow in secrecy. Healing needs light. Not harsh light, not humiliating exposure, but the gentle, truthful light of God. The kind of light that says we are not pretending anymore, but we are also not without hope. I think one thing men need to hear is that your wife is not asking you to be perfect. She is asking you not to hide. If erectile dysfunction is happening and porn has been part of your past or present, you may want to avoid the whole subject, but avoidance can feel like another betrayal. It can make your wife feel like she has to guess what's going on. So even saying something simple like, "I'm embarrassed, but I don't want to shut you out," can make a difference. And I think men also need to be willing to get help, not just hope it goes away, not just secretly panic. If it needs a GP appointment, make the appointment. If it needs recovery support, get support. If porn is still in the picture, tell the truth and deal with it, because your wife should not have to carry the uncertainty alone.
One of the most important things I want to say is this: sex cannot become the test of whether recovery is working. That puts too much pressure on both people. If the husband believes, "I have to perform to prove I'm healing," anxiety increases. If the wife believes, "He has to perform to prove he wants me," fear increases. And then intimacy becomes a courtroom. Every moment is evidence. Every hesitation is interpreted. Every difficulty is awkward. That's not safety. That's pressure. So rebuilding intimacy after pornography often has to start before sex. It starts with honesty, with emotional presence, with the husband becoming more accountable. It starts with the wife being allowed to have her real feelings. It starts with affection. That's not always a demand. And it starts with tenderness and with rebuilding trust outside the bedroom, so that the bedroom does not have to carry the whole weight of recovery. Because the wife may need to feel emotionally chosen before she can feel sexually safe. And the husband may need to learn that intimacy is not about escape, release, or performance, but about connection. That is a much deeper rebuilding, and it's holy work, not glamorous work or instant work, but holy work. If you are the wife and you feel rejected, I want to say this gently. Your need for reassurance is not shallow. Your desire to feel wanted by your husband is not wrong. Your pain around this is not silly. It makes sense that this hurts. But I also want to encourage you to not let pornography define your body for you. Pornography lies. It lies to men about women. It lies to women about themselves. It creates impossible comparisons and turns bodies into products. It removes covenant, age, tenderness, story, sacrifice, loyalty, love, and real life. It presents a false world and then leaves real people trying to recover from the damage. But your worth was never meant to be measured against that false world. You're not less because he looked elsewhere. You're not inadequate because his body has struggled. You're not undesirable because pornography distorted desire. You're a woman made in the image of God. Your body is not a failed product. Your heart is not too much. Your grief is not inconvenient, and your healing matters. Not just the marriage, not just his recovery. Your healing matters too.
And if you are the husband and you feel broken, I want to say this carefully. Do not use shame as a hiding place. It may feel humble to say, "I am disgusting, I am awful, I've ruined everything." But sometimes that kind of shame keeps the focus on you. Your wife then has to comfort you. Your wife then has to reassure you. Your wife then has to soften her pain because your shame has filled the room. True repentance does not demand that the wounded person carry the offender's collapse. True repentance stands up, even trembling, and says, "I will face what I have done. I will care about what it costs you. I will seek help. I will not hide behind shame." And if erectile dysfunction is part of the picture, then part of the responsibility may be practical. Speak to a GP if it continues. Be honest with appropriate recovery support. Stop feeding the porn pathway. Do not secretly test yourself with pornography. Do not return to fantasy as a way of checking if you still work. That only deepens the damage. Instead, choose honesty. Choose patience. Choose embodied presence. Choose recovery. Choose to let God rebuild not only your behaviour, but your understanding of intimacy.
We're going to give a gentle exercise for couples, which is something to talk through when you're both calm, not in the middle of a painful moment. You might each answer these questions separately first. For the wife, when erectile dysfunction happens or when intimacy feels affected, what story do I find I tell myself? What reassurance do I need that is not just sexual? What would help me feel emotionally safer? And what do I need my husband to understand about how pornography has affected this area for me?
And for the husband, when erectile dysfunction happens or intimacy feels pressured, what story do I tell myself? Do I move toward honesty or do I hide in shame? Have I taken appropriate responsibility, medically, emotionally, and spiritually? What does my wife need from me in those moments besides an erection?
And then together, how can we rebuild closeness without making sexual performance the only measure of progress? That question is really important because you're not trying to create pressure, you're trying to create safety. Now, this has been a tender subject, and I know that for some people listening, this may have touched a place that feels raw. Maybe you've never heard anyone talk about erectile dysfunction and pornography in the same conversation without mockery, shame, or awkwardness. Maybe you've carried silent questions for years. Maybe you're the wife who has wondered, why could he respond to that, but not to me? Maybe you're the husband who's wondered, have I damaged myself beyond repair? Maybe you're both tired of the silence. So let me say this as we close. There is hope, but hope doesn't come through pretending. Hope comes through truth brought into the light with God. Hope comes when shame loses its grip. Hope comes when responsibility replaces defensiveness, and when the wife's pain is honoured, not minimised, and when the husband's struggle is faced and not hidden. Hope comes when intimacy is rebuilt as a covenant, not performance. And hope comes when both people begin to believe that what pornography distorted, God is able to heal, not instantly or magically, not without work, but steadily, tenderly, truthfully, because God is not embarrassed by the places we're afraid to talk about. He's not shocked by brokenness. He's not absent from the bedroom, the tears, the silence, the shame, or the rebuilding. He is the God who brings things into the light so they can be healed. And in that light, there is still hope after. Thank you for listening to Hope After. If this episode has helped you find language for something you've been carrying silently, you're not alone. And if pornography, betrayal, and broken trust have affected your marriage, Hope After exists to offer a calm, structured, Christ-centered pathway through the early shock, the deeper healing, and the long work of rebuilding. Take this gently. Don't force the conversation in a moment of pain, but don't leave it buried forever either. There is hope after secrecy. There is hope after shame. There is hope after broken trust. And there's hope after the things no one wants to talk about.